Hey guys, thank you so much for taking your time out of your day to listen in. I'm Alex, and with me is Brienne, who is our DM. You can call them Syra, though, and they're going to be the DM for the
Hi.
Curse Crit campaign. This will actually serve as a recap of the last 12 episodes of the campaign. It'll get pretty long, so settle back with some popcorn or whatever your snack of choice is and listen in. Anyway,
Let's introduce our characters first.
alright, cool. So I play Woe L, who is a tiefling ranger who has lost her memory some time ago. She would describe herself as the mom friend at the party and constantly worries about all of the others, especially Sin Elkwood, who is played by Toki. Sin is a high elf druid who comes from a well-respected family. They're serious and calm with a strong connection to animals and nature, but they can be silly at times. They get easily attached, and they're trying their best to protect and help the party. Then we have Adrian Markovich, who is played by Maddie, and is a traveling musician who has quite a few secrets up their sleeves. They're fairly silly, but they know whenever they're supposed to be serious. Though they do have trust issues, they consider the entire party their family, and they care a whole lot for each and every one of them. Finally, we have Joan Diamartzi, played by Joa, who is a gnome paladin. She has a wife and extremely shaky moral boundaries. She'll also down an entire pot of coffee if it means that she gets gold, or winning, I guess. She is pretty hot-headed. Yeah, she is pretty hot-headed and loves any animal she comes across. She wants to help her party, but most of the time her plans do go haywire.
Our beginning session brought a stray group of travelers to the town of Welton, where
I also want to note, you can tell which parts of this are and aren't scripted. We go off script, we will, and we will fudge up from here on out. So
it'll be pretty obvious.
We're not gonna re-record this. We've re-recorded this so many times.
We've re-recorded it like once.
No, we've re-recorded it a couple of times. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We can go through the discourse after this is done recording.
Oh wait, you're right. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm very right.
Town of Welton, where a bard sat by a fountain playing a jaunty tune. Almost as if by fate, these group of misfits found themselves in the woods, where Father Merrickson has placed a bounty for anyone able to rid the town of attacks from a pack of wolves. The party took it upon themselves to investigate this further, searching the woods for where this pack of wolves may be. During their search, they stop moving the highlighter around.
I'm helping you follow, meanie.
It's distracting. I'm sorry. I love you.
All right.
During their search, I have it highlighted. During their search, they were introduced to an injured owlbear and gained its trust. In doing so, it led them directly to the cave where the wolves were staying. Without wanting to alert them, the party snuck in through a hole in the cave's ceiling. In a fight, the party soon learned they had the ability to speak. They being the wolves.
Yeah, that's a very important distinction. The people can already speak. The wolves, the wolves, the wolves, however, yeah, they can. In this situation, aforementioned to us, anyway.
Post-fight, the two alphas emerged, Bolt and Flame, who harnessed the energy of electricity and fire respectively. While the party tried to negotiate with Bolt, it only resulted in an uprising from Flame.
One might say that Flame is a hothead.
Didn't.
Can you please put in post, can you do a favor for me?
Do you want me to put that in?
Put it in, and also can you, try and put some cricket effects after?
You know what? I'll see what I can do.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Uprising from Flame, claiming the humans deserved to die for trespassing on their land. Once taking her down, the party successfully made a deal with them in which the wolves only attacked the village. Successfully made a deal with them in which the wolves would only attack the village to take sheep for food, and once they had enough, they would leave. In exchange, the wolves did not want the town knowing that they could speak. So, our adventurers returned back to Welton, the owlbear nowhere to be seen. As a gift of thanks, Father Merrickson gave the crew 800 gold pieces.
Which, we split up amongst ourselves. We didn't, put it in the compiled pot or anything. I do want to... There's something that I've actually thought of. Okay, so it's fair enough that they don't want the town to know that they could speak, but, what about the powers?
And, they don't want them knowing about the powers either.
Why didn't you put both of those?
Because the deal only included talking.
So they could have deadass just been like, yeah, they're fine. They got powers. Wow.
Yeah, but that could cause complications in the future.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Anyway, so once the group got a chance to rest, off in the distance there was a noise from an owlbear. A fog slowly began to creep up, which seemed not to be a threat at the time, but when it began to curl up and trap the group, they soon found themselves transported to a strange place, entirely new from what they were used to. There, they met a traveling woman named Alana, who introduced herself as a Vistani, and directed the group to her camp. There, a bunch of these same Vistani were drinking and being merry and getting hella crunk, where an older man... Well, okay, I say the entire... Edrian went with the group and got crunk, and I think Joan did too, if I'm correct.
Yeah, and then Sin was off with the horses.
Sin was off with the horses by the river, and then Woe was to herself, because it's Woe. Anyway, eventually they all got together by a campfire, and there was an old Vistani man who recounted a story about a mighty wizard who was charismatic and talented and led the place to a revolt. There was a vampire there as well, I think. I don't know. Anyway, the wizard survived but was struck by lightning and then soon died after. Because of the vampire, I presume. Once done, Woe got her tarot cards read by Madame Ava. I want you to know, I fudged up because I totally forgot, and I forgot again. I forgot that I did this again. In the script that we have written down, because we put little paragraphs of what we need to say, I literally put, there was a vampire there as well, I think. I don't know. Anyway, the wizard... Anyway, once done, Woe got her tarot cards read by Madame Ava, who was an older Vistani woman whose face seemed to waver at the sight of the group because they were weak as fuck. However, she did read the cards, and they were as follows. This card tells of history. Knowledge of the ancient will help you better understand your enemy.
I see a wall of bones, a chandelier of bones, all that remains of enemies forgotten.
This card tells of a powerful force for good and protection, a holy symbol of hope.
I see a garden dusted with snow, watched over by a sackcloth grin. Look not to the garden, but the guardian.
This is a card of power and strength. It tells of a weapon of vengeance, a sword of sunlight.
An evil tree grows atop a hill of graves where the ancient dead sleep. The ravens can help you find it. Look for the treasure there.
This card sheds light on one who will help you greatly in the battle against darkness.
Evil's bride is the one you seek.
Your enemy is a creature of darkness whose powers are beyond mortality. This card will lead you to him.
The cards can't see where evil lurks. The mists obscure all. Afterwards, the party was graced with a ride to the village of Barovia by the Vistani. Yeah, upon arrival... Yay! They put off the inevitable and made camp just outside the small village. It was during that night that they were met with a new friend who introduced himself as Cheskar.
Did you mean the love of my life, Cheskar? I love him.
This new friend told a story of a fight between him and the Devil Strahd with great enthusiasm to the mild disbelief to all but Woe.
Because Woe never fucking forgets a bitch. Which is funny because she lost her memories.
After Cheskar left, they settled down for the night. morning, the group decided to head into the village of Barovia, where they came upon a church of the Morning Lord Lathander.
Lathander.
After breaking into the place, they were met with Father Donovich. Sin managed to considerably piss off the man, getting the entire party kicked out of the church. They still camped out in the graveyard, though, with the knowledge that something about the place was magical. The entire day was spent there while the other half of the party, being Woe and Edrian, while Sin and Joan stayed in the graveyard. Woe and Edrian went out into town.
Oh,
At night,
yeah, it's because, okay, there was this huge thing, like, after they pitched up on Father Donovich, the garden, like, there was, like, an arcana check on the garden, because there was something off about it. And Joan, I believe, was it Joan and Sin who got the correct, their rolls were correct on, correct, they were high. High doesn't necessarily mean correct, but, their arcana checks were high, and it was on one of the the tombstones, and then it seemed to be throughout the entire garden. So, Woe was like, hey, we should probably get away from here, because, you know, bad juju. You just pissed off the abbot. Well, Father Donovich.
The father.
Yeah, no, the abbot's later. Tugs
the collar.
Yeah. But, so there was there was a huge dramatic part where Edrian and Woe ended up going into the town, and Sin and Joan literally just stayed in a garden for the entire day waiting for something to happen. So there's that.
Yeah. At night, thousands of the dead rose from their graves and began to march towards the castle nearby, which was also like miles away, but you know, small details. It was then when there was a shadowy figure climbing on the wall. One that looked a lot like Edrian. The shadow told Edrian to not ruin the fun and soon disappeared from their sight. After that, they found themselves in an inn where they met Ismark Kolyanovich and later on his sister Irina.
It's also an important distinction. They found themselves, meaning they walked. They didn't disappear and then go into the inn. I see.
They might have well have disappeared.
Well, yeah. Okay. Anyway.
They were set to go to bed soon after the events. Though Woe and Joan did have a talk that night about Joan's recklessness in which she promised to cool down.
Spoiler alert, she never fucking does. I love her, but she never does. The next day, the crew finally and formally met Irina, who I forgot to break in the middle of what Syra was saying and say she's the love of my life, because she's the love of my life. I say that about a lot of NPCs in here, by the way.
You do.
Except for Ezek and Strahd, who expressed... Okay, so they met Irina, who expressed a want to bury her father, basically get his soul blessed so he could be with Lathander in whatever comes after life. The crew did agree, but then they soon realized that the same person who would bury him was the very same man they managed to piss off the day before. They decided to try for it anyway, and Woe came up with the idea to leave a note explaining the situation and leave it in the graveyard. However, on the way back, who was to show up but the bitch boy Strahd himself, who was headed right for where Irina was. So Ismark was like, oh shit, I should go fucking help my sister. So the crew went...
I don't think this is in the script.
The crew decided to go and finish the body. Irina wasn't there. And it's also important to note that, Woe ended up forging a note in Irina's handwriting, which she got a pretty high deception, score on, so.
Yeah.
Asking to bury him. So, we still don't know about that shit. Anyway, Ismark went back to go help her, so his sister, Irina, and the crew dropped off the body, but then whenever they returned to Ismark and where Irina was, they found motherfucking Strahd, who was claiming Irina as his bride and was holding her close. One of those, fucking fantasy romance novels where, they've
Phantom
got...
of the Opera?
No. It's not what I was thinking at all. Anyway, so there was like a mini fight, and I do mean mini because we all know that this is not exactly how it would go down had they like actually been fighting with Strahd.
It was one fireball.
It was one fireball, and like, and Ismark was out, and I think Edrian and Joan also passed out, or maybe Woden. I don't know. They were pretty much fucking dead. But Ismark ended up bringing Ismark back to full. Well, not to full, but to like half health. So Strahd ended up disappearing with the threat of returning, and Irina, who thought her father was buried, he probably isn't, agreed to go with the crew to Vallaki, where she would be safe. However, on the way there, the crew was met at a gallows where Sin recognized one of the hanging bodies as their own. They managed to get inside the village of Vallaki by charming the guards who let them in. I used charming very loosely. They literally used a charm. They were not actually charmed, like in a flirtatious sense.
Okay. Inside the village, I forgot about this.
You want to go ahead and explain this shit, Sarah?
Inside the village, they went to a doll shop called Blinsky's, where they found dolls that looked like Strahd, Irina, and a hanging elf figure, from a gallows.
Yeah, but here's something that Sarah isn't gonna say. So Sarah misread it initially, and started calling Blinsky's Blanksies. So in this campaign, Blinsky is now Blanksy. Anyway, continue.
If not Blinksy is no
is no good is not Blinsky.
Is no good is no Blinksy. Sin ended up purchasing a frog puppet named Kermit, spelled Kurmit.
You know, copyright stuff.
Yeah, you know. There they learned about a man named Izek Strozny and a Burgomeister. With another church to go to, the group met with the priest, who was talking with a young boy. The man revealed himself to be Father Lucian, who was having...
not the boy. The boy's not a father.
I'm sorry, I'm just imagining, like, this little boy being a father.
Oh, yeah.
Having trouble... I'm putting the hammer down on this one.
You're gonna put the nail on the coffin?
Oh, we're trying to do a serious thing here.
Oh yeah, no, it gets so much more dramatic. I've cried in the last 3 sessions. We're just really not wanting to deal with the emotions that this brings up right now.
Oh yeah, especially Alex right now.
Especially me.
Who was having trouble finding the bones that made the church free of Strahd's evil.
The father.
Thank you. They talked to the child
Not
after
the
a while.
Okay, I'm done.
They talked to the child who, after a while of convincing, said he knew where the bones were. Going to that man's house, he revealed he had a vampire problem, and that man was a coffin maker.
Which is like double the issue.
Like an older coffin maker.
Oh, poor man. That poor
yeah. They found the bones that they were looking for and went downstairs, but the man asked about the vampire problem. Woe felt guilty and went back up to fight them, and in doing so, the rest of the crew joined in. With the church now safe, Irina was free to stay there without fear of Strahd's attack.
There's something that I forgot to put in here. Whenever they were leaving, the poor old man, the coffin maker,
you almost gave him a heart attack.
Sin legitimately dug into that bitch. Sin was like pissed. Well, I think it's also because Edrian almost died.
Oh, almost all of you.
Almost all of us
died.
Sin got really mad and basically like yelled at him and then left, and then everyone left, and then it was like, hey, I'm sorry. But also, if you do that again, you're a dumb bitch, and you should never ever do that again. Along those lines, but like more effectively scaring the piss out of him. Anyway.
No, keep talking. It's okay. Hold on. Okay. Never mind. Yeah. Lucian suggested that the group travel to Kresik for their garden fortune, giving each party member a blessing of the Morning Lord, which essentially acted as a death ward.
Because they need it.
Because they need it.
They need it real bad. They did. They really did.
Yeah.
Whew. Oof. Anyway, the crew settled in a nearby inn. And
It's
after their arrest, nothing got heated in the inn.
No,
That's
not yet.
The kind of shipping that we're doing. Anyway. After their arrest, they decided to take Irina to the church for her own safety and protection, seeing as the Devil's Stride can no longer enter it. However, when they got out of their rooms in the inn, they saw a group of older folks, one of which had 3 raven feathers in her hair. They soon learned that these people and their old friend Chesgar, the love of my life, were all were-ravens, and they belonged to a system called the Keepers of the Feather. These people promised to keep watch over the crew, I would presume in raven form, but also human form if need be, and gave them a feather that they could burn if they needed any help, which is not a part of the actual book, as I believe, but like how essentially, if they need any help, they were told to burn a part of the feather.
Mm-hmm.
And how many uses did it have? Like 4?
4 uses.
4 uses. Anyway, after their meeting, a man named Rictavio seemed to be staring at them. Sin, once again grilling into someone who they don't know, approached him, and after some lying about their names and getting off on the wrong foot, save for Woe, as per usual, they all set out to go to Kresik. However, they did not get outside, like 3 miles, and Sin heard a owlbear noise and started like going around like trying to catch the owlbear, which for some reason is like a very vivid picture in my head for some reason. And like
running around
just
or
whatever. Yeah. But and who was to be there but motherfucking Ezek Strosny himself.
Every time a villain shows up, you preface it with motherfucking.
Yeah. Because he's a motherfucker. Anyway, the group met Ezek, who, the guy that they had heard about in Blensky's, who was making these dolls for Strahd himself. Sin was becoming a public disturbance by making noise in the place, ended up getting arrested, and Woe's self-sacrificial ass ended up joining them because she was like, hey, take me instead, you dumbasses, cowards. But they did.
And then...
But, like, the thing is, like, it wasn't instead. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, to preface this before we go on, this is where I begin to devolve because I only have bullet points.
Should have written out those paragraphs, B.
I should have written out those paragraphs, but I'm gonna wing it, if you catch my drift.
Wing.
Alright, so, yeah. The party got into a fight with Ezek and 12 other guards, I believe? 12 or 11. One of the two. A bunch, yeah. And ultimately, it did end up in the arrest of Ezek. I wish. The arrest of Sin and Woe. Woe was kind of freaking out as Sin was being dragged away and saying, I thought you would let them go. Wow, I'm mixing up my persons, forgive me. But yeah, hoping that they would let Sin go. But that was when Ezek had said, we have a deal. Mm-hmm. And at Woe's shocked reaction, he tacked on, your family didn't tell you?
Yo, hey, buddy. Don't do that.
It was just before that Joan and Edrian had fled back to the church from Woe's pleading. And once they had gotten to the church, they kind of, I don't want to say broke down, but kind of started freaking out.
No, they broke down.
They broke down.
They proper broke down.
And Irina and Father Lucian were there to kind of help calm them down, or try to. And as as the day wore on, night began to come, and Sin and Woe were, trapped in stocks as they waited and waited. And it was during the night that Strahd had visited Sin and Woe. And Sin was pressing them for answers about where Irina was, claiming he needed to find his bride. And neither would answer. So, unknowingly to Woe, Strahd had charmed Sin. So, Strahd was directing his questions at Sin to try and get answers back, which Sin told him, yeah, Irina's at the church, whatever, we're cool, aren't we? And Woe felt utterly betrayed by this. Yeah. It was after Strahd had gotten all his information that he tucked a letter into Sin's pocket before heading to the church, where Joan and Adrian planned to stay for the night. After a little discourse between Joan and Adrian, which included a fireball, Strahd had left, and Joan and Adrian remained a little shaken up after it.
Oh, that's right. Strahd ended up going to the church. I totally forgot about that.
He wasn't able to enter, but he stayed kind of by the windows and the door. But once he left, the night wore on, and nothing else happened except when dawn came. Joan and Adrian had heard footsteps outside and trampling. When they looked, there were groups of people just heading to the town square, where Sin and Woe were kind of stuck in their stocks. So, Joan and Adrian decided to follow, and when they got to the town square, it was revealed that the Festival of the Blazing Sun, I believe is what it's called, was going on. So, it was then that Izek had grabbed Sin and tied a noose around their neck, only to hang them moments later. However, due to the Morning Lord's blessing, their neck didn't just snap. It snapped and they were still alive and left to suffocate. And once Sin was still, Izek went over to Woe, grabbing her to bring her to the gallows, to hang her as well.
So, Woe had ended up coming up with an idea, after Sin's hanging, to essentially use the blessing of the Morning Lord, giving her to die once, effectively, but to react by setting the gallows aflame with their hellish rebuke, and then run away from the hanging. She was successful in this effort, but it did ended up marking her as a wanted person throughout Vallaki. And Sin, now a ghost, caught up to the group and its bystanders, possessing Joan. Initially, Woe didn't believe them, but after some convincing, she did believe. With this knowledge, Woe immediately wanted to get their soul back into their body. Theirs being, of course, Sin's soul into Sin's body. It was then when Irina mentioned the Abbey of St. Markovia and talking to the abbot there. Maybe he'll help, or maybe he'll be a huge piece of shit. Spoilers! He is. Anyway, Woe, now a wanted criminal, had to disguise herself. I should also mention, I totally forgot about this, on their way out from Vallaki, because I had asked if the bodies were just left there to hang, and they were. So Woe ended up shooting the rope with their bow and arrow, running, catching Sin's body. So they had a decaying corpse with them the entire time. It was great. Anyway, the group eventually did escape Vallaki, arriving at a Vistani camp. Joan decided to stay next to the horses, where Woe and a now ghastly Sin went to a tent, where a man was beating on a teenager. Adrian's shadow finally got the attention of the place by Woe's spying. Well, Woe was spying, and then the shadow was like, let's knock over a vase. So they ended up, their attention was towards the vase, and Woe just walked out and walked back in, I didn't hear anything. She talked to the two men about a deal, clothes to disguise her in exchange for finding their daughter, who was missing, Arabelle. While with the horses, Joan found a silly-looking construct that she ended up following. The construct ended up opening its mouth, and the dart ended up knocking Joan the fuck out. Joan dreamt of home and her wife before Adrian quite literally slapped Joan awake. The funny thing about that was the conversation went like this. Adrian, I'm gonna slap Joan awake. Whoa, don't slap Joan awake. Adrian slaps Joan awake.
That's actually exactly how it went, yeah. So after a bit of a stern talking to Joan about wandering off, Woe had decided, we need new clothes. At least I do. I'm a wanted criminal in Valaki right now. I should probably get something else. And so she was talking to the men who she made this deal with. Mainly Ergol. And Ergol was like, yeah, no, I can hook you up. And essentially gave her what is known as the Robe of Stars to help disguise her. After that, the party went ahead and went in the direction that the teenage boy had last seen Arabelle. It was difficult because he was tied to a post and kind of just gesturing, but he was doing his best. Ultimately, the party came to a lake where a rowboat sat in the middle of it with just a lone dude in it. So, Woe and Adrian decided to take a rowboat out to the other one, while Joan and Cheskar stayed on the beach. I should mention...
Because Cheskar was there.
Yeah, they picked up Cheskar along the way. I forgot to say that. This is why you write out paragraphs, kids. So, while Woe and Adrian were on the rowboat, they saw this man in the other one throw a burlap sack over the edge into the water. So Adrian wasted no time in diving and grabbing it, and once they returned it to their boat and opened it, there was this young girl choking on water, who they could only assume was Arabelle. Then back on the shore, Cheskar had seen a stag a ways down, and was just kind of maintaining eye contact like, what the fuck are you doing, buddy? And did eventually point it out to Joan and the rest of the party when everyone was reunited. And at that point, the stag had taken a step forward and had changed its form. So now he looked like an older man, in which Will was like, ha, no thank you, and immediately left to go back to the Vistani camp. Upon arrival, Arabelle was reunited with her friend, which was the strange-looking construct, who she had said his name was Piddlewick. So,
Piddlewick the big dick.
That's a construct, boy!
He's a dick.
He doesn't have a dick!
No, I wasn't talking about, oh my god. He's a jerk.
Oh, you're okay. Clarification. But anyway, they ended up returning Arabelle, and Aragorn had also promised a prize. So Joan and Adrian had gone off to basically the prize cart, while Woe wandered off to stay by Sin's body and mourn.
Because she knew she pissed off the father of Arabelle. Because whenever she was giving Arabelle back, she was like, hey, don't fucking do that shit again if you were to give me... I remember it happening like this. Okay, basically she went to the father and she was like, hey, we can give her back, but I want you to promise something. I don't want a prize. Like, they may want something. All I ask is that you be like a decent human. And then he got pissed, and she was like, well, I'm not even going to go over there anyway. So then she ended up going and staying with Sin's body.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember her snapping in the morning. But...
Yeah, no, he snapped in the morning, but she snapped at him both in the morning and in the evening.
But, yeah, Adrian and Joan had ended up opening a chest that had 650 gold pieces in it, but I don't think they ever shared it with the rest of the party, like told them.
Yeah, well, I mean, we already have all of that money from the bounty anyway, so...
Right.
I don't think that Will has much of a desire.
I don't know, it still doesn't hurt. It's okay. And so they decided to stay the night there with the rest of the Vistani, kind of sleeping among the drunken people on the ground. And come morning, the Vistani were going to keep up their end of the deal. The deal being, you get Arabelle back, we will give you a ride to Kresik. So, Aragorn wasn't too happy about that, especially after Woe had gone off on him.
Yeah, well, fuck you.
But a deal is a deal. And so the party decided to crawl into Arabelle's cart. However, they were bringing Sin's dead body with them. So, as soon as Arabelle saw it, she started screaming at the top of her lungs. And the party was trying to calm her down, like, no. See, it's okay. And Piddlewick was kind of freaking out. He didn't like the screaming. So his initial reaction was to look at Arabelle and shoot a sleeping dart at her, knocking her out cold. So, the party had ended up getting... The party ended up arriving at Kresik, but before the end of the day. Yeah, before the end of the day. And they wasted no time getting in, using Despair as their friend, considering the guards were not letting them in before the party had mentioned, we need to help our friend. Our friend's dead. Except it was a lot more elegant than that. It wasn't as, upfront. But once getting inside, they went straight for the Abbey and the Abbot, in which they had met two mongrel folk who they befriended. But once inside the Abbey, they ended up making a deal with the Abbot. Basically, I will bring back your friend if you get me a wedding dress for this bride. So they gladly agreed. It seemed like a fair trade. And Woe had laid Sin on the table in which the Abbot had brought them back. Woe was quick to hug Sin and hold them close.
Oh, you don't have to go into this much detail, you dumb motherfucker.
And in this moment, Woe had finally admitted her feelings towards them and had told them, I love you. In which it seemed like Sin reciprocated it and was not letting go of Woe either. So, after that...
But they didn't say anything, so how can we actually know?
Cap's forehead.
Anywho...
I missed that meme.
After that, the crew ended up going to the west wing of the Abbey with now alive Sin, where, actually, you know what, I should mention, after the session, Sin, Toki, the love of my life, was told to roll a percentage dice.
That's correct.
Hey, don't use your fucky DM voice. This is happy fun recounting time.
What is a fucky DM voice?
That's correct.
That's correct.
See, you always do the thing whenever I point out that you're doing something fucky, you go back and then you, over-exaggerate it, but it doesn't make it any better. It just makes me believe that you're trying to cover up the thing that you just did. Anyway... With Sin now alive, the crew ended up going to the west wing of the Abbey, where they met a golem, who they presumed to be the Guardian, as per the, not the garden, but the Guardian. And there was a Guardian in the Abbey, so. However, they did end up fighting with the golem. It was then when they saw a griffin, who helped them in their battle, and also showed them where a holy symbol was. It was inside one of the scarecrows. While there, 7 wights began to rise up but were entangled, the group making their escape on the back of the griffin. It was there when Woe found out that she was afraid of heights. Once on the ground, the group minus Woe offered for the griffin to stay with them. At Woe's lack of approval, the griffin ended up staying out of pure spite alone. In the village of Kresik, the crew all met with a girl named Elise, a little girl named Elise, who seemed heartbroken at the loss of her parents. They all soon discovered that the abbot was using her parents as parts for his bride. Feeling heartbroken, Woe bequeathed her dagger and a day's rations to the girl, leaving a note with them. I will also attach the note in the description whenever I upload this video. Actually, you know what? No. You know what, Syra?
You want me to put it in the video?
Yeah, can you put it in the video?
I can put it in the video.
Cool.
And in the description.
Cool. Nice. Sin cheered her up with Kermit after that, her meaning Elise. And then, is that whenever Kermit, like, started speaking to them?
Yeah, at that point, Sin had seen the Kermit puppet kind of turn their head towards Sin and say, "You're doing a great job, buddy!"
See, and they do the thing. That's the voice that they use for Kermit. Instead of, an actual Kermit voice.
I can't do a Kermit voice, plus it's not, it's a knockoff Kermit.
It's fair.
Too.
That's fair. It's Blinsky's Kermit.
Yeah,
Blinksy's
Kermit.
Anyway, they discovered that the bride that the abbot was making was for Strahd himself, which is kind of dumb considering he was claiming Irina to be his bride. I guess it's like a second option. Like, hey, if I'm not going to have this extremely smoking hot girl as my wife, I might as well have an amalgamation of body parts and different people.
Oh.
Yeah, right? Because that's your rebound, you dumb bitch. Anyway, they discovered that the bride was for Strahd himself and began to question whether or not they should truly help the abbot. Outside, there was a noise from the whites from earlier that were previously entangled but now following them.
Yeah. Once the whites got to the bottom of this hill to the rest of the party, they were trapped in a combat with them, alongside the Griffin who was helping try and take on these whites. In the middle of the fight, Sin had summoned 8 badgers to help fight alongside them, and Elise had ran out of the house with a dagger at her side and a plank of wood with nails sticking out of one end to try and help the party as well. So, the fight didn't go as smoothly as promised, but they did end up killing all of the whites, with Elise landing the final blow with the dagger. The party praised her, and then everyone went inside, save for Adrian and Joan. No, Adrian went inside, Joan was still outside petting the Griffin. Adrian had decided to go off and kind of play their instrument, and Woe, Sin, and Elise were all in a living room area. Woe was trying to ask Sin questions about why are you talking to yourself, because at that moment they were kind of mumbling, considering Kermit was talking to them. Sin pushed Woe away and headed to their bedroom to try and sleep, and after that, Elise and Woe had a heart-to-heart. Basically, Elise had been telling Woe, like, I want to be just like you when I grow up, in which Woe had responded,
No.
You're gonna be better than me.
No. You'll be better.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Elise had also tried to get Woe to promise to visit, like Woe and the others to visit, and which Woe was like, I can't promise that, but we can certainly try. And so with that, Elise ran off to her room to kind of sleep, and Woe had brought Adrian back inside. Wanting to check up on her party, she went to each of them separately, starting with Joan, who was kind of doing her hair, and she offered to help. Joan said no, so she went ahead and went to Adrian. After Woe had left, Joan was looking in this cracked mirror in front of her, and Woe had came back with it was a water bucket, right?
It was a water bucket, yeah. It was a water bucket that was basically clear. It would act essentially as a mirror.
Yeah. So while Joan was doing her hair, she had said, and I have this written down, hold on. She had said, Marie, hope I'm making you proud, and began to cry. Do you want to explain Woe and Adrian?
Yeah, okay. So Adrian was, Woe went to Adrian and she was like, hey, what's up? Are you okay? And then Adrian's like, I've never been okay a day in my life. And Woe was like, haha, mood. Like, not exactly like that, but like, similar, you know? So they talked, and then, she was basically, or Adrian, not Woe. Adrian was basically like, hey, listen, I know that you're kind of stressed about this family thing that Izek said about you, but we're your family now, and no matter what in the past has happened, like, I know how you feel, but, like, we're your family, so don't stress about family shit. And so, Woe ended up getting the bucket from Joan's place. Joan was in bed already at this point, and she had gone over with the bucket and pointed to the bucket and looked at Adrian and said, okay, so everything that you've said to me about my family, I now want you to say to yourself. That caused them to cry, kind of trickling the water a bit as they started telling the same things, and that was pretty heartwarming. And then they ended up hugging and they went to bed. Well, they as in Adrian.
And then Woe finally got to Sin, who was trying to trance, but still kind of talking with Kermit a little, more so ignoring him than really responding. However, Woe was asking Sin, like, how are you doing, and trying once more to get Sin to open up. Ultimately, Sin had a breakdown over the whole Kermit ordeal.
Mayhaps.
Ordeal, you know.
Me, Wumbo.
No, this is really sad. I shouldn't be laughing. Anyway. Yeah. Sin ended up having a breakdown over this and admitted to, well, like, I think I'm going crazy. In which Woe had ended up getting the Kermit doll and saying, we can burn this if you want, which Sin said no to. And it was at that point Kermit was starting to chime in to Sin, trying to get them to listen to him. Basically saying, like, you're my friend, you can trust me. But, unknowingly, Woe was also parroting what Kermit was saying. It ultimately resulted in Sin just kind of looking down and just saying, I can trust you. Unsure who it was directed at. It was after that Woe kind of left Sin alone and left the house, planning to go to going back to the abbot, but decided against it halfway there.
Yeah. After her decision, Woe had a mostly one-sided conversation with Fluffy, who they later renamed Atlas, in a sort of moral dilemma about what?
I forgot to mention. Yeah, Elise had named the griffin Fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
So for a few sessions, they were just referring to the griffin as Fluffy.
They did rename him to Atlas, though. Sin had come up with the name. But Woe had a mostly one-sided conversation with Fluffy, who they later renamed Atlas, in a sort of moral dilemma, having just promised Adrian that she would never leave them, because, they've got abandonment issues. Thinking of them, they turned back to address the abbot at a later date, and fell asleep outside while keeping watch. However, Sin and Adrian woke up to the scream of a little girl, which this makes sense, by the way. The letter. I didn't get it until, or at least the beginning part. The scream of a little girl. When the two went into Elise's room, where the scream came from, she was gone. However, there was a letter, which said the following.
You refused to join me for dinner, so I have to bring someone else. And on the back it stated, beware of tomorrow night.
And my dumb ass was like, oh, you're just going to bring someone else. I don't know what that was. It did not even click with me that it was going to be Elise, but...
Yeah.
Anyway, as you can tell by Cyrus' fucky voice, the letter was from Strahd himself. Confused and shaken by what had been threatened of them, the party decided to look for the dress in the house, since Elise had mentioned something about her mother making a dress for the abbot. And they did find it, but in less than desirable conditions. Although, Joan did know a bit about being a seamstress from her wife, who was a seamstress, and then she managed to make the dress look halfway decent with the help from Woe. Woe, at this point, didn't really give a shit about the abbot, so she looked at it and she was like, it was fine, and then, did a couple of stitches, and then she was like, whatever. Anyway, the crew headed all up to the abbey, where there was a strange woman talking to him about vampires. She was described as something similar to Strahd, but with a darker coat and with wavy hair instead of the gross, stringy, straight hair that
and
Strahd
definitely
has.
not pale.
And definitely not pale. This girl would later introduce herself to be Esmeralda, another love of my life. And she and Woe had talked just outside the abbot's room about her possibly being a help, since they both had a common goal, which was vampire hunting and ultimately defeating Strahd.
Yeah, and as Woe and Esmeralda stepped outside, Joan had snuck outside as well. You know when there's a dog pile and someone's on the very bottom, but you can't see them? That's kind of like how Joan was. Which I know it's not a good description.
Not a great metaphor.
But but it's the only thing that comes to mind when I think of Joan in this situation. But as they were talking, Esmeralda's shadow like rose up behind her and like looked over who was outside with them. And at that point, Woe and Adrian were both like, ha ha ha, what the fuck? And Esmeralda had explained that the shadows moving is a normal Vistani thing, in which Adrian had more of a breakdown upon the realization that they are one of the Vistani. That they are a Vistani, I should say. Vistana? Vistana. But back inside of the Abbey, Sin was left alone with the Abbot, with Atlas just kind of wandering around the room looking at things, not really paying mind. And the Abbot had threatened Sin, basically saying, get me that dress. I brought you back to life. I can easily take it back. And it was at that point that Kermit was like, maybe we should go join your friends. In which Sin was tired, but was like, yeah, you're right for once. And ushered Atlas over. In which, like, Sin had pet Atlas, and Atlas wasn't having any of it, so just kind of grabbed them by the back of their collar and dragged them outside, in which Sin just accepted it, like, okay, I guess this is happening. And then, once outside, they did end up finding information about somebody who could help them.
Ez was basically talking about this man who, like, she didn't really give a name, but she's like, I'll lead you to him instead. So she ended up taking the group to a tower that they'd soon learn to be Rictavio's, or, as Ez screamed right outside of his door, Richten. There, despite Rictavio's general opposition towards the party, from before, he offered for them to stay in a place in the tower so that they'd be safe for the night per Strahd's threat, which they had talked to him about. In the middle of the night, they were greeted with that motherfucker Strahd, some punk-ass bitch with some cool clothes or whatever, another guy who was definitely a vampire, and he offered to make them a deal.
I'm gonna add on to that.
What's up?
That Strahd was also holding.
Oh, yeah. Elise was there.
But that's where we stopped.
And, of course, if you have any questions at all about the plot or about our characters or anything, we're also happy to clarify some of the things. Our Twitters are already on the screen, so if you want to ask anything about any of the characters, there should be things underneath. I'll also put it in the description below if you would like to see it. If you'd like to ask us or Syra anything at all, please let us know. And thank you for listening to this behemoth of a intro.
Okay, how long is it so far?
It's been about 53 minutes and 20 seconds.
Okay, so we shaved off some time.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
We did. Okay, well, that's cool. Again, guys, if you have any questions, any comments, concerns, complaints.
If you want to follow the Twitter, it's at @CursedCrit.
You're right. Thank you for reminding me.
Yeah, it's exactly like the title, no underscores, just one, like 2 words put together, basically.
Oh, and y'all, if you want to be notified for the videos that we put out, which should be either Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, depending on how fast we get them edited, you can always subscribe to this YouTube channel. Please click the notification bell if you want to be notified, because otherwise you will not know, because I know how YouTube works, because I have my own YouTube, and you won't see it.
And after a couple of weeks, we'll have a steady uploading schedule, but for the first couple...
We're very new to this.
Yeah.
I learned what OBS is like 2 weeks ago, so... We're getting used to it. But thank you guys again so much for watching. If you liked it, punch the like button. But seriously, thank you guys so much for listening, and we hope to see you for the next actual episode. Bye!
Have a good day.